Hey guys, this is Ina from Ina C Watercolor. And in today's painting tutorial, we're going to look at how to paint this Greek island scene together, specifically to convey that bright sunlit feeling on this island, but also the challenge of painting two different types of water. One is the deep blue ocean in the background, and the other is more of this crystal clear lagoon water within the harbor. So let's dive in and look at how we can tackle this challenge and create a sunlit feel of the Greek island together. So this is the famous Mandratia fishing village in Milos, and this is part of my upcoming solo exhibition centered around the Aegean Sea and Greek island. What I'm doing here is just that I'm repeating a lot of the techniques I showed you guys in the earlier video for painting white buildings, which is that I pre-mix these three primary colors on my palette, which allow me to kind of alternate and dip into different colors as I go along. So I'm doing my initial pass of the harbor wall, which is very bright sand color. And I intentionally dabble my paintbrush on the towel to get rid of the paint so that I get to have these dry brush mark. And as you go along, don't cover up the entire area either, leaving out some blank space. So this looks like not only textured, but also suggest, right, some of these are sunlit, others are more shaded across this whole terrain. Now, once I'm done with the initial pass, this is where you can switch to the two brush method, one for the yellow and the red warm tone, the other for the cool shadow lavender hue. So I'm going to just start adding some shading, such as the stairs or any surfaces that face away from the sun, and they will cast a pretty strong shadow. Now, don't be afraid to go a little bit strong here because that's what brings out the intensity of the sunshine. So that the light part of the paper looks way brighter, right, with a much darker shading around it. So now as we reach the church building, so the church building is primarily white, and it's also, further into the distance. So that's where I'm using a lower contrast shading, which is a much lighter lavender color for the shades, so that the contrast of the light and dark is not quite as strong as some of these rock walls in the foreground. Now we need to move on to kind of the key part of this painting, which is this turquoise colored water, where the ocean is more shallow and the water is so clear that we can see through some of the boulders and sand at the bottom. The first step is to mix a nice gradation of this turquoise color. And if you look closely to our photos, you'll see that even within this area, the water actually gets greener towards the beach as it gets shallower. And the part that's away from the beach becomes more blue, and the ocean in the background will be an even darker blue. The way I approached it is that I still maintained the brush that has that sand color on it, because some of these shallow water area is really a soft blend between that sand color and the lagoon color. So here I have finished filling in this whole area. The next thing is to paint the boulders at the bottom of this ocean bed. I think I tried using this round brush with more blue hue for the boulders, but once I apply it, I think it actually calls for way less paint on the brush, but also a much warmer blue color, almost like a green really. So I added in a bit of the brown color to make it more green, but also switched to using this flathead brush. This is a synthetic brush that doesn't hold a lot of pigment on it, and kind of like fan out as I go around. But that is not all, because for the boulders, they are still rounded objects, even though they're underwater. That's where you need to go in right now when everything is still wet, to kind of paint the shaded part of the boulder to suggest that these are a bunch of round objects. Cool. I like how this is turning out. Definitely have that feeling of being able to peek through what's underneath the water, but in a very subtle manner, so it doesn't look like these boulders are like floating on top of the water. But so here's another tip for depicting these very transparent crystal blue water, is that they don't actually create a lot of reflections because they're so clear. The shadows casted by these boats on the bottom of the ocean are going to be much stronger than the reflection. Therefore, you're better off not bothering with the reflection in this case and just focusing on painting that casted shadow so that these boats looks like they're really suspended and they have that very strong shadow at the bottom of the ocean. So now I'm just finishing up the trees and the greeneries on the rock surface. Similarly, using a dry brush mark. I find that for this painting, because everything is further away from the viewer and has much smaller detail, using small brushes like this script brush is going to be more effective than using a large brush, because it helps you maintain the details and also the textures, right, from the dry brush mark. Cool. Now we're adding in some more colors to make the objects pop in the scene, such as the gates and the doors of these houses. And the boats are mostly light colored. I think in the image there's some more colorful boats, but in the grand scheme of things, I think we're better off keeping the boats simple and neutral tone, so they have a nice contrast with the blue water and does not take the viewer's attention away from the focal point of the rock wall. So now we're going to finish up by just painting the sky and the ocean behind. So this Mediterranean blue is by mixing ultramarine blue with a bit of phthalo blue to cool down a little bit. And also what I did here with the portion where the ocean meets the rock wall is to dot in some of the turquoise color so that it will echo what is in the foreground and does not make the scene look like it's separated, right, into two halves. And very last step is to fill in some of the details further. Yeah, I'm quite happy with this painting. I think it really has captured that sunny feeling of the Mediterranean Sea. Hey, thanks for tuning in today, and I hope you enjoyed the video and have learned something new from it. And let me know, please, if you have questions and feedbacks in the comment section below. And I look forward to seeing everybody again in the next video. Bye.